There's something really fascinating coming up that I'm going to apply next week in the coffee drying process that I am really excited about. It might be kind of top secret for now, but there are some really interesting new things coming.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Paparelli, co-founder of M-Cultivo, and welcome back to the Cupping Table podcast, where the best coffee producers and buyers share their stories, insights, and outlook on the specialty coffee space. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by a true power couple in Panamanian coffee, Ratibor Hartmann and Tessie Palacios. The incredible Mi Finquita, their personal 9-hectare farm, is a third-generation farm from the legendary Hartmann family. This will be a new type of episode for us. I'll be asking questions in English, and then we will be using AI to dub Tessie and Ratibor into English from Spanish. This is our effort to further share coffee producers' stories in an authentic way while still reaching a global audience. So be patient with us. Let's see how it goes. Tessie and Ratibor, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you.
So first question I ask on these is, what is the best cup of coffee that you have had recently?
That's a great question. The last one I tried was a new AR36 varietal, which was recently made at Wine Globe, and I tasted it for the first time just 2 weeks ago. Its profile is impressive, offering a vibrant array of fruit notes, such as ripe berries and subtle hints of citrus, along with a distinctly floral and aromatic character that makes it very interesting to experience. It's genuinely exciting to see what we are accomplishing throughout the entire innovation process with Wine Globe, as we explore new ideas and refine our techniques to create something truly unique.
And for me personally, I truly believe, and I think that every single new batch of coffee that we release is always incredibly impressive because we are genuinely super proud of what we do here. And we always strive for absolute brilliance and exceptional cleanliness in our coffees. So for us, any one of the batches, any of our coffees, is honestly a worthy and fitting representative of Mi Finquita. And we stand behind each one with great pride and confidence.
Was there anything this year in particular that you were really excited about? Something new out of Mi Finquita?
There are a lot of exciting new things coming, especially in terms of processing. We're going to do some really interesting things with fermentation processes. By that I mean, we'll be trying out different fermentation methods, each of which can influence the coffee's flavor in its own way. I'm a firm believer in innovation and using the technology that's available to everyone, whether it's new equipment or updated practices that help us improve. And I'm someone who wants to break paradigms in coffee, always looking for ways to challenge the usual methods and try something new. I'm not a traditionalist coffee grower, no. I'm driven by new things. There's something really fascinating coming up that I'm going to apply next week in the coffee drying process that I am really excited about. It might be kind of top secret for now, but there are some really interesting new things coming.
Experimenting with new materials, new things.
This seems to be a theme in Panama, where for some reason the Panamanian coffee community was, I don't know if the word would be more innovative, but certainly faster in development into this luxury coffee category, right? You guys have been a part of that for 3 generations. This most recent generation was probably kind of the explosion of Panamanian coffee on a global level, right? What elements about Panama do you think made that kind of innovation possible in that Boquete area specifically, of all places in the world?
Okay, your question is also very interesting, and I appreciate it. But for me, what happens is that Panamanian coffee growing, or the overall quality of Panamanian coffee, has pretty much reached its absolute peak at this point in time. It's very hard to raise the score any further. It's extremely difficult to raise the score, and making improvements is a real challenge. So, as producers, we have to add other kinds of value to our coffee. That's where we are starting to observe new and innovative fermentation methods, as well as new and different ways of producing coffee, because we're also gradually changing the overall philosophy of coffee production, the philosophy of coffee processing, and even the way we transport coffee from one place to another. These days, you can see that we transport coffee very differently from how it was done 5 or 10 years ago. So that exceptionally high top level of quality that we strive for leads us to approach things in a way that is very different from what we used to do in the past, in the more traditional sense. So each and every one of us is constantly competing to see what unique added values, improvements, and innovations we can bring to our coffees. It's a very tough and challenging competition. It's a competition of science, technology, discipline, dedication, and many other important things. But for me personally, it's a truly great competition because it keeps on raising the bar for coffee growing all around the world. But it also really elevates Panamanian coffee growing and helps us, the producers, to grow, improve, and become different.
And I would also just add one more thing, that in this fast-moving technological world, customers are really truly valuing direct relationships. It is becoming very important for them. That is to say, in a way, we are in fact going back to that personal connection, that sense of genuine friendship, to coming and seeing firsthand what the producer actually does, and of course, vice versa. This is because we too have become much more interested in truly knowing and understanding what our clients do, so that we can create even more valuable and meaningful connections and relationships with them.
So you get, with Panama, you get a more direct connection with the market. You get more feedback, right, into the quality of your coffee, the processing methods that you do. Competition on the other side, the Panamanian community is also sharing insights and processing techniques, that sort of thing, I'm guessing, also sort of makes it a little bit more secret. So you talk about competition, but is it more of a community there than a competitive environment? How do you guys feel about the Panamanian coffee community currently?
There is indeed a Panamanian coffee community that we focus on, a group where we consistently try to build up and elevate the country brand as a whole. However, as coffee producers, each one of us also has our own unique production philosophies, our own distinct philosophies when it comes to processing our coffee beans, and likewise our own individual marketing strategies that we employ. So I do think that each of us faces extremely strong and intense competition. And I wouldn't say it's regional. It's really each of us trying to position ourselves and conquer the best markets. But I truly believe that it's a genuinely healthy and positive competition that ultimately benefits coffee growing, both in Panama and for us personally as individuals. And at the same time, it also serves as a source of inspiration for coffee growers in many other parts of the world.
When you look at Panama's production on a macro level, in reality, we truly understand that we have to work collaboratively because our production is actually so small and limited that one person alone could never possibly meet the needs of a client, let's say in China or anywhere else in the world, right? So we understand that when we go abroad, we can definitely work together as a team, always supporting each other along the way and combining our efforts to achieve our shared goals.
You hear this with other producers in other parts of the world. I mean, this has certainly happened in Brazil, but all over this is sort of happening where producers are becoming more focused on building their own brand than they are on building their country's brand or their coffee growing region's brand. There's always a tie, you know, there will always be Panamanian coffee, but it's also trying to say, okay, well, but Mi Finquita is actually different. It's more nuanced than just coffee from Panama. Do you guys agree with that idea that seems to be something happening in the world, not just with your farm, but other farms around the world? Is this a new movement, so to speak?
For me, yes, I definitely think so. I can give several examples. One example that comes to mind for me would be the Rodriguez family, who are based in Bolivia and have a long tradition in coffee farming, as well as Pepe Higon, a well-known figure in Ecuador. And of course, there are many more dedicated individuals and families in Colombia. So at the end of the day, after considering all these examples, I truly think we do represent not just a single country, but rather a whole region, a broader area. But when it comes to what actually happens in specialty or ultra-specialty coffee farming, for me, the ones who really paint the brushstrokes, the people who shape the way we draw and experience coffee, these will always be represented by faces, by certain unique individuals, by specific people who leave their mark. For me, to put it simply, or to sum it up in a straightforward way, it's very much like a copyright. essentially a copyright on what we ultimately see in the end. And we can observe this in a recent trend. That's exactly what's happening with the coffees that are currently best positioned in the world. There are real faces behind them. There's a tremendous amount of work, a great deal of dedication and commitment from each of these farms and each of these companies.
And also, just to give a bit of background in history, let's remember that 40 or 50 years ago, the coffee producer would typically hand over their coffee to someone else and then never hear about it again. Back then, they didn't even know what their own coffee tasted like, who it was sold to, or really anything at all about its journey. So, thanks to the comprehensive traceability that was thoughtfully developed and maintained over this period of time, the producer now receives recognition, not just for the consistent quality of their products, but also for their important role and identity as a producer within the industry. There's now a much more direct and transparent connection between the consumer and the coffee producer, which really makes this particular market much more interesting and engaging for everyone involved, right?
It's much more about a brand is much more than just the quality of the coffee or the scoring of a single coffee or the processing method, right? And this is what's so interesting about what you guys are doing and what others are doing. It's about the craftsmanship. It's about the story. You mentioned it's about the scarcity or the rarity of the coffee. You guys don't have a large production of coffee, so it's very unique in that instance. You've been doing it for a long time, 3 generations, and you're innovating. I mean, I think the constant push for innovation, whether that yields 1 point more in quality score, it still makes it more interesting, right? It still makes the whole package more interesting. I do wonder if what that means for country brands. So I heard a story from Terroir in Brazil where they'd look at an offer list and they would see, I'm just making this up, but they'd see Hartmann's Panama. They'd see, they'd see Cafe, I'm trying to think of somebody else, but they'd see a producer Colombia, they'd see producer Nicaragua, producer, and then it get to Terroir, and it wouldn't say Terroir Brazil, it would just say Terroir coffee. It just wouldn't even say the country. I wonder if we're going to see more things like that in the future, where the offer lists just say, Hartmann's, Mi Finquita. Is it from Panama? I don't know. Is that important to you guys to see that your coffee is from Panama on an offer list or in a coffee shop, or does it matter? Is it better just for it to be Mi Finquita by the Hartmanns?
For me, I'd be proud, and maybe I'm very patriotic to say, yes, I love it. Always saying that it's from Panama, then saying it's from Las Pozos or from Santa Clara or from some specific region. First my country, then my region, and then the brand. For me, it's very important, and I feel proud that a small little town, or not even a town, just a place out in the countryside in the Panamanian mountains, can produce coffee of the highest quality and be found in the best shops in the world. For me, yes, it's very important.
And we don't really know for sure because life has shown us time and time again that, well, a lot of things can unexpectedly change along the way. And maybe, just maybe, who knows, sometime in the future, we might even consider producing somewhere else in the world, depending on how circumstances evolve. But right now, I think that coffee connoisseurs, meaning those who have a refined taste and deep appreciation for high-quality coffee, see the Hartmann brand, or especially the Ratibor label, and they instantly think of coffee that comes from Panama, which is known for its unique flavors and exceptional quality. So, of course, it's really important, obviously, because we've put a significant amount of work and effort into that. But honestly, I truly think that nowadays, coffee connoisseurs immediately see the brand and instantly place it in Panama, right? So we're very proud of that too, as it marks an important achievement for us and reflects our ongoing dedication to quality.
And that's been consistent with your family's story. So, Ratibor, you're a 3rd-generation coffee producer, Panama. Tessie, I guess that would be the question, is kind of tell the story of how you guys became kind of a coffee family together, because it was 2 individuals, but how did you join and become a coffee family? Where did your stories meet?
Well, the story of Mi Finquita comes from our desire to create coffees that are truly different, coffees that stand apart by bringing together all of Ratibor's knowledge, our family's long experience in coffee, and the tradition built over 100 years of producing coffee in Panama. This rich history has shaped our approach and continues to inspire us to experiment and honor our heritage with every cup. And my curiosity, even though I don't actually come from a family of coffee producers, but coffee, just like for so many other people around the world, truly drew me in, called to me, fascinated and interested me. And today, I honestly can't imagine doing anything else but producing coffee. More and more, we find ourselves deeply interested in everything that is happening around us, in our environment, in our community, and in the world at large. Together, both he and I have managed, through our shared experiences and dedication, to pass on that love, that genuine passion to our children, one of whom is currently finishing college, pursuing her academic goals, and the other is already fully immersed in the world of coffee, working as an agronomist, which is her chosen profession and lifelong calling. And you can already see, even at such a young age in our 4-year-old grandson, that same affection, that same heartfelt appreciation for the coffee beans and for everything we do as a family. So I truly believe, when I reflect on it, that we are doing a good job so far, and I am proud of the legacy we are building together. Speaking about Mi Finquita, just like the name in English, my little farm, it all started with the idea of being carefully crafted, of being something very exclusive, very refined, and truly special. But as time went on, we gradually realized that we could actually do more and more things, expanding our horizons and possibilities. Because Ratibor's spirit is always about doing something extra, always going above and beyond, and never settling for just the ordinary. And my little farm, my small piece of land, carries that Ratibor DNA of always doing something different, of constantly innovating and improving, and above all, creating. And well, that's how we've been. Soon it will be 8-9 years in 2026 that my little farm has been operating at the estate level, producing and exporting the best coffees for the world.
And Ratibor, your family started in cafe 100 years ago. What is it like to continue that tradition in coffee for you?
I see it as something that, for me, has already become, well, something I do every single day. But it's also something that inspires me to keep moving forward. Every single day presents a completely new and unique challenge for me. And every day brings with it a new discovery, a fresh realization. Because you see, a lot of times people come up to me and say, Ratibor, you know so much about coffee, you must be an expert. But the truth is, no, I'm always learning new things, always expanding my knowledge. Coffee farming, this wonderful and complex process, leads me to discover new things all the time. Today's ever-changing and dynamic market even makes me change the way I think, adapt my perspective, then reconsider my approach. Because just as a little bit of history for you, I used to work buying coffee for both Illy and for Starbucks many years ago. And back then, during those earlier days in the coffee industry, it was all gentlemen, men in suits and ties who dominated the scene. It was a very formal environment, quite different from what you might see today. Nowadays, I negotiate with guys who are 30, 25 years old. It's actually very different from what you might expect. So I'm always in the process of reinventing myself. Ratibor has to be in a constant and ongoing process of reinvention in order to be able to keep up with where the market is today, especially the ultra specialty market, which is exactly where I want to be and where I see my future. So it's a lot of things. But it gives me a great deal of satisfaction and happiness. It's exactly what we talked about earlier. When I see, for example, in a store in France or in a store in Japan or in a store in New York, coffee that says Panama from my little farm, that truly makes my heart swell with pride.
Did you imagine that would happen when you first started working in coffee or when you saw your parents working in coffee? Did you think that your coffee would be known all over the world? Was that a dream?
Did I think it was going to change? Yes, I was sure it was going to change, but not in the way that coffee has changed. Coffee, the re-engineering of coffee. Well, I think that among all agricultural products, aside from wine, for me personally, it's the second one that's moving forward at a really interesting and fascinating pace. Yeah, like I said before. In short, I knew it was going to change, just not in this particular way. But it's something so incredibly beautiful, something so deeply rewarding for oneself and for others. When you have a small business, like my little farm, which I have built with care and dedication, with a strong sense of environmental responsibility, with a deep commitment to social responsibility, and many other important things, that's truly very important. Because you're leaving a positive impact on the world, making a difference for future generations. I always put it this way: we leave footprints. I say, I leave green footprints on this planet. For example, we leave some small green footprints on this planet. They may not be many, they're small footprints, but at least we leave something positive on the planet and in the area where we are.
Was there a moment for you, Tessie or Ratibor, when you realized, oh, this is almost a different business now? Like this, was there a moment you can remember where you said, oh, this is different than it was before? Coffee is now changing. This is a movement. This is a change. Panamanian coffee is moving to this luxury category, high specialty category. Is there a moment you can recall when that happened for you, or when you reflected on that and said, this is actually different?
Of course, that's exactly what I meant when we said that the market is, super dynamic and constantly changing. At a very specific moment in time, I think it really started to take shape since the crisis of 1989. It was around that period that we began to notice significant changes and shifts in the market's overall structure and behavior. But now, recently, you see it everywhere, in everything. You go to a fair and you see all sorts of new and innovative brewing methods on display. You see new people enthusiastically telling you about the latest new experiments they've done, different fermentations, you name it. Science is truly in full swing here, and the excitement is absolutely palpable. When it comes to systems, people, their sales strategies, everything is just so incredibly dynamic, actually. It's constantly evolving and dynamic. And it moves like that every single year. There's always some kind of change happening. So we really do feel a strong responsibility to keep ourselves updated and informed on those changes as they come along, just to make sure we're always in the loop. How do we do it? Well, that's exactly why it's so incredibly important to have that direct personal communication with our clients. We typically spend about an hour talking with our colleagues in France and then another full hour talking with our partners in Canada, so they can really tell us in detail how things are moving and developing in those specific markets and what their perception is of what's coming next in the industry, because that's precisely how we make our decisions and set our strategies for the following year, ensuring we stay ahead. So you have to be in constant, ongoing, and uninterrupted connection with the client, with the industry. And this is pure, continuous, and unceasing, constant dynamism, always adapting and evolving.
Like Tessie said, the coffee crises of the late 1980s really made specialty coffee farming practices change significantly, right? That's actually when the specialty coffee movement truly began to take shape. But it really accelerated, in my opinion. It sped up noticeably. I think about 15 years ago. And that's when the big changes truly started happening. For me, personally, the most significant changes were brought about by the young people. When young groups got involved in coffee farming, in the specialty coffee movement. And above all, I have to mention it, for me, the ones who changed history were the baristas. When they started asking for new things, bring me something new. Bring me coffee from Juan Perez, from Pablo Sanchez, from Raquel, from Miranda. Bring me different things, and I want to talk about coffee. They, the young people, changed the history of coffee around the world.
And was that out of, the famous quote is, necessity is the mother of invention, right? Is that out of necessity that the younger generation changed coffee, or was it out of more curiosity and passion, in your view?
Wow.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, what a question. Like I said, the specialty coffee movement started earlier because the coffee was so bad. It started because it had to be done. It was an obligation to change the coffee of the world. But there eventually comes a point, at least for me, when young people, motivated by genuine curiosity and a desire to learn, got involved, partly out of curiosity and also because they discovered a particular field, even within the broader economy, where they could truly fit in. They saw it and they managed to do it. They took it over and they've done it well because they've made the world's coffee shine.
let's remember that there are still coffees from some countries that are still treated as commodities on the New York Stock Exchange. But in the specific case of Panama, that's exactly why I refer to the crisis of 1989, which was truly what triggered all those significant changes in Panama's coffee industry. At that particular time, it was an absolute necessity because if those important changes weren't made, we were going to disappear. The industry would have disappeared completely and entirely. So at that time, it was a necessity. But now, when you start hearing from baristas, from customers, they say, I need something. I need something different, right? I need something different. And every single year, it's always the same thing. They say they need something different from what we've already offered them before. We already offered them something different last year, and now they want something different this year. So now things have changed. Well, it's become much more dynamic now, just as I mentioned before. At this point, it's really about them wanting something new, something different from what they had before. Their interests have shifted, and they're looking for new experiences or opportunities that they haven't had previously.
What do you think is having more influence on that innovation in coffee or that creation of, a separate class of coffee? Obviously there was a crisis and then coffee had to change. But then it sounds like what you're saying, Tessie, is you actually had a lot of people requesting change from coffee shops, from markets, from roasters, saying, hey, we would like a different kind of coffee, a different kind of relationship. What do you think is playing more of a role in driving that change? Do you think it's the producers that are innovating or the buyers that are requesting innovation?
Well, let me give a bit of background again. In the 80s and 90s, when producers only had one type of coffee at their mill, they processed everything the same way. And that was the quality standard for that producer, right? Nowadays, you see so much dynamism, so many things. You can have a classic washed natural, or you can have an experimental or a different kind of fermentation. I think this sense of dynamism really comes from the market's ongoing curiosity and interest for new things. This curiosity, this constant desire for innovation, in turn pushes the producer to be dynamic and adaptable as well. Because if there wasn't this kind of pressure from the market, maybe, I'm just saying, maybe we would be producing things in a somewhat different way, right? So I really think that knowing how to carefully and attentively listen to the market, truly understanding their needs, their desires, and what they genuinely want is what drives the producer's engine to be dynamic, adaptable, and to consistently offer new and innovative things to the market.
For example, a coffee shop. Just last week, this happened with two coffee shops in Panama. They were both looking for innovative coffees, but neither of them wanted the other to have the same one they did. So this situation forces me to make two different coffees for the two coffee shops, ensuring each has something unique. Herma. Creating exceptional coffees specifically for baristas who participate in regional competitions in many different countries or in world competitions. I have to compete with the very best and most skilled producers from Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, and many other renowned parts of the world, so that I can then offer a truly unique and memorable coffee to the Italian barista, the Swiss barista, to different clients.
Yeah, and you guys lived through that, right? So you made changes to your operation based on kind of that necessity. But you're now carving out, it sounds like, some of your production to be more innovative. I don't know if you had clients asking for Chicho Gallo, for instance, or if you just thought Chicho Gallo would be a great variety and something to try. But you must balance kind of clients are telling me they want this, and we're going to do these things differently in order to move the farm and the production forward and in the way we think. How do you balance those two factors? The feedback that you get from clients and then selecting a variety like Chicho Gallo to plant in Mi Finquita to move your operation forward.
I think that's a great legacy from my father. A great legacy from my father. My father used to say, when everyone is planting tomatoes, you plant sweet peppers. When everyone is planting sweet peppers, you plant something else. So we all know the story of Panama. Okay, well, it's a story that is truly full of many different kinds of successes and glories with the geisha. But I also think that you can definitely do things with a Chicho Gallo as well. You can do. You can do truly great and remarkable things with a bourbon coffee variety. And I have a challenge for myself and for others. I want to see if it is possible to do equally impressive things even with a Typica variety, and to be able to achieve very refined, nuanced, and sophisticated results with a high level of recognition and a very high standard of quality using coffee varieties that are not so easy to handle or work with. But I think that's exactly where the whole idea of how to process coffees in a very different, innovative, and creative way is going to be reconsidered and reimagined. I think the new change, the real transformation, where there are going to be big, significant changes now, is called fermentation, which is a process that is gaining a lot of attention and importance in the coffee world. Today, we see a lot of hard work and dedication being done in Colombia and in other countries as well. But for me personally, that's where everything is really going to be focused. It's all going to be about how exactly we're going to ferment. So I want to do things with Chicho Gallo. I want to do things with bourbons, with Typicas, of course, and
There are already some very promising results about that, and we firmly believe we're on the absolutely right track. Remember, My Little Farm is our truly personal signature, and we genuinely think there are going to be some very interesting and exciting things happening over the course of this entire coming year.
Chicho Gallo in particular turned out to be very successful. Tell us the story about that varietal, Chicho Gallo. How did you find it? How did you decide to plant it? How did you decide to process it?
an interesting story. Chicho Gallo, like all coffees in the world, comes from Ethiopia. And this coffee comes from Ethiopia. It arrived to us 20 years ago as just a few very select beans that we processed and took to a seabed. This produced more trees. And it was very interesting because the Chicho Gallo challenged the geisha with its floral notes. So, the name Chicho Gallo is given in honor of my father, because my father was actually named Ratibor, but in Latin America, people affectionately called him Chicho. He was a small man in stature, but also a truly determined and real fighter. So my father was already on his deathbed and his final days at 96 years old. And as a family, we decided, after a long story, to say, okay, Chicho Gallo. The name is given in honor of my father, and it is already officially registered as such at the RIR laboratory located in France, where it now appears and is recognized as a new varietal. Yes, it's actually a very long story that would take quite a lot of time to tell in full, but that's the short version for now. Maybe it's also about the challenge, because my father was a very interesting man. My father started producing coffee back in 1945. And my father was always a dedicated specialty coffee producer throughout his entire life. He grew shade-grown coffee, and he was a truly passionate environmentalist. He protected nature, and he even challenged the Green Revolution with his coffee. And he was heavily criticized during the Green Revolution because he produced coffee that way. But his market back then was always Europe, specifically Germany. It was Germany for many years. Because of his roots, his coffee went to Europe. And he was a specialty coffee producer. So he instilled in us this way of being rebellious, of conquering things, of being bold in our processes, in planting, and so many things. For me, that's a great legacy my father left in all of this. And well, nowadays, we're very happy that this coffee, in part, carries a connection to my father in its name.
Incredible story. Yeah, and incredible that that Chicho Gallo was so amazing too, as a variety, as a quality cup that your dad's name would carry on in that way. I'm sensing that you guys have a separation of kind of some sort of separation of position or duties on the farm. So Tessie, are you more customer focused, where Ratibor is more kind of production and farm focused? How do you guys separate? How do you guys work together effectively?
We work in a team, of course, naturally, as you might expect. Okay, sorry. We work as a team. He's the one who handles the field work, along with Jessie, our oldest daughter. And also, well, on a farm, the producer really does a bit of everything, right? We do. We have to do it all, from cleaning, coordinating, even making podcasts. Everything needs to get done. But we work as a team, like I said, especially Ratibor, handling processing the farm with Jessie. And I primarily focus more on the administrative side of things, which includes handling paperwork, organizing schedules, and managing various tasks in the lab, overseeing the cuppings, and ensuring excellent customer service for everyone who visits us. And in the near future, Ratibor Jr. will also join and become involved in this part of the business as well, because as I mentioned earlier, right now he's finishing his degree at university, which is taking up most of his time at the moment. And when he comes back, he'll join this part of the work. Right now, we are working with a talented and dedicated team, a carefully selected group of the very best people who truly understand the concept. This selection includes everyone, from our trusted service providers and reliable suppliers to our own valued and talented team members. In other words, it's a whole selection of the best people. Because at the end of the day, that is truly what we want to share with our valued clients and our dear friends. It is the excellence and the outstanding quality of this remarkable brand, this unique farm, and this dedicated family as passionate coffee producers.
What advice would you have to couples that are thinking about getting into business with each other? Going basically, starting any kind of company. I mean, it doesn't have to be coffee either. I mean, coffee is so difficult, but any business. Do you guys have any advice for other people considering getting married and starting work together?
Wow.
See.
Well, look, they often say that maintaining a relationship as a couple is really hard, but maintaining a relationship as a couple and also running a business together is even harder, honestly. You need a lot of patience, a lot of tolerance, and quite a few other important things. But I think it's really interesting. And it's very interesting, actually, because when there's a merger, things start to blend together, and each person gradually begins to understand their own role. It takes time and effort, but the experience can be rewarding as everyone learns and grows together. Okay, so you do need to have separate roles, just like you mentioned. You have to have separate roles. But if each person understands their role and does their job well, things will work out well. They should work out well. We, as a dedicated family in the coffee business who only do 100% coffee, clarifying our commitment to quality, know that this business has to work no matter what. So she gives 100%, I give my 100%, my daughter gives 100%, my son gives 100%. And our team members give 100%. So in the end, it's like a whole set of gears. Everything has to work perfectly. It can be done. It's hard, but it can be done.
I also truly believe that it's the passion and dedication that really drives us forward. We're constantly thinking about coffee, literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then suddenly, while we're just having lunch together, someone will say, "Oh, look, let's do this thing." And maybe we weren't even talking about that at the time, but your mind is always coming up with new ideas. That's an enthusiasm that gets passed on. For us, it feels normal because it's what we do every day. But our friends and customers tell us, "Oh, you all give off so much energy and you inspire me." A lot of people have told us that, which that's really cool feedback for us. So thank you. It means that people are getting inspired by what we do. That's important. So my advice for other couples out there is that it's also very important to always respect and value each other's personal space, giving one another the freedom and room they need to grow. For example, the time that Ratibor spends in the field, that's a really complicated part because you work with people who still, especially the men, have that kind of macho, tough guy attitude. It's really, really ingrained there. So what I do with Ratibor is, well, I have an idea. Look at this. We need to do it this way. Please pass it along over there. So it's really about not overstepping boundaries and making sure to always respect his role, at least in that particular part of the process. But we can still communicate openly and honestly and make important decisions together as a team, right? In the same way, on the administrative side, for example, if there's a question or something that comes up, or if I think it's a particularly important decision, I tell him, look, this is happening right now. What do you think about it? Then he gives me his opinion and we carry it out. So he also truly respects and appreciates the important role that I have here on the administrative side of things. And that's how we go about it. It's not easy, like Ratibor said. It's not easy, but I think we've managed to do an excellent job.
Really good word there. And it's, I'm sure, easier said than done. But you guys must get tired of talking about coffee over the dinner table or lunch table all the time. You need to have timeout moments and talk about other things, I would imagine. But it kind of shifts from a passion to an obsession. I definitely live that as well. And I do want to talk about a little bit with the Dubai auction that you guys are joining in January. We talked last year, Tessie, before the first Dubai auction we did. And it was way late in the year. I mean, I think I called you in, I don't know, November, December, something like that. And you said, interested. Do you know who we are? I'd be interested in doing this. But it turned out there just wasn't enough time. So we're very excited to have you guys involved this year. I would love to hear why you decided to be involved this year. What is it about auctions or this particular auction that was interesting to you?
Just like they said, right? Because of time constraints, unfortunately, we weren't sufficiently prepared to do things the way we love to do them, with plenty of time. So there's no rush and to try to minimize mistakes. Last year for us, entering the auction would have meant making mistakes, errors that could have been costly. So after careful consideration, we made the tough and difficult decision not to participate in the auction. But we said to ourselves, next auction, we'll definitely be there. So this time, we prepared very differently, with much more attention and effort, and we're very happy. We're really excited and enthusiastic about this auction. Also, why do we want to do it? Because, as we've mentioned throughout the interview, there are various different sectors of the market worldwide, each with its own particular characteristics. There's Japan, there's China, there's Europe, all these places. The auction is in a place that we truly believe, and we are absolutely sure that a significant part of the future of ultra specialty coffee is definitely going to point to this very place. That's why we want to be there. We know that there's only a very small space available for us, but that's exactly where we truly want to be. Within that small, special space, we want to be there together with you, sharing that moment. And we know we're going to do great things together. We know that Chicho Gallo, geisha too, of course, but Chicho Gallo is going to make a lot of noise. As we Latin Americans say, it's going to make a lot of noise at this auction.
And also because it's an opportunity to share that space with producers from all over the world. And it's a challenge that brings us a significant amount of excitement. We'll see. That's what the auction is about. And we're really eagerly anticipating and looking forward to seeing what happens during the auction process.
No need to be worried about it. I'm sure you guys are going to do great. The coffees are going to be wonderful. I'm really looking forward to trying the coffees as well. Before we sign off here, I would love to ask one more questions to both of you, which is just, what are you excited about in the next, 1 to 3 years, let's say, in coffee? What are you really looking forward to with Mi Finquita or with your operation or with the industry overall?
As I mentioned earlier, I personally was truly born to create new things, to innovate. This is really what drives me. I still believe I'm full of energy, and innovation is what drives me. I want to break paradigms in coffee. I want to go as far as breaking paradigms in coffee. So, for me, there are goals. This year, 2026, is going to be very, very important for me because there are some really interesting new things coming with fermentations and drying. And there are new varietals coming onto the scene. New varietals that are not Chicho Gallos. They're different things entirely. So in 2 or 3 years, we're going to see a lot of changes happening. And not just from our side, from my little farm, but also because this global coffee competition, as I always say, pushes all of us to go higher and higher every single day. So I say that in 3 years, there will be some very interesting and significant changes for me in the market. And I know with certainty that the coffee market in 10 years won't be what it is today, but will have evolved in ways we can only begin to imagine. It's going to be a very, very specialized market, but it's going to be really interesting.
And, well, the philosophy of my little farm is just what Ratibor just told you. To keep innovating, constantly innovating, and always listening carefully to our clients, understanding their needs, and paying close attention to those important changes happening in the industry. We want to be able to adapt to these evolving circumstances and stay relevant.
But always, and this is very important to emphasize, we also make absolutely sure to consistently respect the terroir, a great deal actually, and just as importantly, the environmental aspect as well. Our work with coffee will always respect the environment and the terroir too, because we have some very, very important clients who are deeply fascinated by the terroir. And for them, we keep it and will continue to keep it entirely pure, entirely traceable. And another important thing to mention here, the most important thing, is that we can make all the changes we want in coffee growing or do many things. But what matters most is being transparent and making sure the consumer ultimately knows what we're doing and how we're doing it. Being able to communicate this clearly and respectfully to our clients.
Maintaining the philosophy that has inspired us for these 100 years, nature, the social aspect, development, research. Because if there's one thing that marked the history of Rathibor's father, it's that he was a scientist. He was always keeping track of bird counts, mammal counts, all kinds of flora and fauna that we had around us. So with that remarkable legacy he left us, these are the things we truly want to preserve and cherish over time.
It's tough to ask that question because in the next 1 to 3 years, it's almost too short of a time frame in coffee. It's almost like you have to ask what will happen in the next 10 years. And it sounds like you have another generation taking over as well. You have a 100-year history to honor. But I just respect how much you guys are able to balance this idea of innovation with kind of the feedback from your customers, with sort of the stewardship of the environment, the land that you're blessed to have. I mean, those things are really hard to do individually, and you guys are doing well to do them all together. So the Hartmanns will have Mi Finquita, a natural geisha, and a natural Chicho Gallo in the Dubai coffee auction, which will happen in January. Please register. You can go to M-Cultivo.com for anybody out there. You can register on our website, and you can, I would think by this time this podcast comes out, you'll still be able to buy a sample set. You should. There's going to be some amazing coffees from all around the world in that sample set, including the Hartmann's Panamanian Geisha and Chicho Gallo. So we're excited to have you guys as part of this. I think this will be a welcome addition this year alongside other Panamanians, but other coffee producers worldwide that are just doing some incredible things that you'll be able to sit there. And thank you so much for your time today and patience in this interview. This is a new one for us. So we did a blend of Spanish and English, and then we'll translate. So we'll see how this all turns out. But thank you so much for your patience, and thank you so much for sharing the heart of Mi Finquita today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Alor, then we will talk to you guys soon.